So this time, no, we look into the policy formulation and implementation. Most commonly, actually, when it comes to policy formulation and implementation, we look into the local up to the national. No, policy formulation and implementation are integral strategies. No, policy formulation and implementation are integral stages in the policy cycle. Uh, representing the process through which governments develop and put into practice strategies to address societal issues. The policy formulation involves the creation and design of policies, while implementation encompasses the execution of these policies to achieve the intended objective. The first step, no, in policy formulation is identifying societal issues that require governmental intervention. Once issues are identified, the policymakers set specific objectives that articulate what the policy aims to achieve, and clear objectives provide a foundation for designing effective policies. To give us more details about the topic, let us all welcome our presenter.
Good morning, sir, and everyone. I'm Jerica Jane Castro, and I will be explaining policy formulation and implementation. Now, what is policy? Policy is a course of action that will create a desired objective in the interest of the masses or the people in a country. This is basically a set of guidelines, principles, or rules established by an organization to guide decision-making and achieve desired outcomes. Then the types of policy, we have substantive and administration policy. Substantive is concerned with the legislation, programs, and practices that govern the substantive aspect of community work. This dimension of policy addresses the core issues, principles, or fundamental aspects like income security, employment initiatives, childcare services, and social exclusion. Then for administration policy, this focuses largely upon administrative procedures. This involves the collection of statistical information on neighborhoods and the evaluation of complex community programs. The next type of policy is horizontal and vertical policy. Horizontal policy is developed by two or more organizations, each of which has the ability or mandate to deal with only one dimension of a given situation. This policy is created between parts of an organization or among organizational components. Areas of common interest include climate change, youth employment, and the range of concerns rooted in the cities and communities. Then for vertical policy, this is what we think of as the normal and traditional way in which policy decisions are made. This is developed within a single organizational structure and generally starts with a broad comprehensive policy. Such decisions are made at head office and guide subsequent decisions throughout the organizations. Then the next one are reactive and proactive. Reactive policy emerges in response to a concern or crisis that must be addressed. It is enacted to address and mitigate problems that have already risen. Sila po yung existing issues, like health emergencies and environmental disasters. Then for proactive, these are introduced and pursued through deliberate choices. This is increasingly recognized as vital keys to unlock the doors to both economic wealth and social well-being. Proactive policy is a strategic approach that involves anticipating and addressing potential issues before they become major problems. Then, current and future policy. Current policies are the set of rules, guidelines, or principles that are presently in effect governing actions, decisions, and practices. While future policies are anticipated rules, strategies, or guidelines that are planned to be implemented at a later time. Basically, these are the policies that are currently on the public agenda and those that are not. For policy formulation, it is a it is a critical component of social and economic development. This typically outlines the process of developing a policy, detailing its objectives, strategies, and considerations. Effective policy formulation is essential to addressing social and economic challenges and achieving positive outcomes for individuals and society as a whole. Then let's proceed to key components of policy formulation. We have here four. That's agenda setting, policy development, adoption, and implementation. For agenda setting, this is the first stage of policy formulation, involves identifying issues that require attention and setting priorities. Then policy development. This involves developing policy proposals that addresses the issues identified during agenda setting. Then adoption. Once policy proposals have been developed, they must be adopted by the appropriate decision-making bodies. This may involve legislative or executive action, depending on the nature of the proposal. For implementation, this is the final stage of policy formulation and involves implementing policies and monitoring their impact. This may involve developing operational plans, allocating resources, and establishing monitoring and evaluation frameworks. Policy advocacy is the active promotion or support of specific policies, laws, or measures. This involves engagement with decision makers, stakeholders, and the public to influence policy development and implementation. In summary, the interplay between policy advocacy and stakeholder engagement is essential for creating well-informed, widely supported policies that can be effectively implemented. Policy formulation and implementation are interconnected processes in the governance cycle. Effective policies arise from well-thought-out formulations that consider various factors and outcomes. However, the success of a policy ultimately links on its proper implementation. That's all po. Thank you. Okay na po, sir.
Okay. Again, successful policy formulation involves engaging relevant stakeholders, including the citizens, interest groups, experts, and affected communities. Gathering input from a diverse perspective helps ensure that policies are well informed, reflective of societal needs, and have a broad support. In the formulation stage, policymakers conduct thorough research and analysis to understand the root causes of the issues at hand and to explore potential solutions. And this evidence-based approach uh, enhances the credibility and effectiveness of the proposed policies. The policymakers generate a range of policy options based on their research and analysis. And these options are evaluated against criteria such as feasibility, cost, effectiveness, and societal impact. The best suited option is then selected for further development. Once a preferred option is identified, the policymakers draft the policy document outlining its objectives, rationale, and proposed strategies. The document undergoes review, revisions, and approval process within the government hierarchy, involving input from various departments and agencies. The implementation phase involves developing a detailed plan outlining and how the policy will be put into action. This includes assigning responsibilities, allocating resources, establishing timelines, and considering potential challenges that may arise during the execution of the policy. Effective policy implementation often require collaboration between different government departments, agencies, and external partners, because coordination mechanisms are put in place to ensure that all relevant stakeholders work together seamlessly to achieve the policy goals. Governments implement monitoring and evaluation mechanism to assess the progress and impact of the policy. So the key performance indicators are used to measure outcomes, and regular evaluation helps policymakers make informed decisions about adjustment or refinements to the policy. Throughout the implementation process, policymakers collect feedback from stakeholders and assess the policy effectiveness. This information is used to make necessary adaptations, ensuring that the policy remains relevant and responsive to changing circumstances. Continuous feedback loops contribute to the iterative nature of the policy cycle, fostering ongoing improvement and refinement. And I think that's it for this topic.